Good evening, and welcome to this special conversation on brotherly love. I'm Ron Thompson, Program Director for WOL, WYCB, and WPRS in DC. Tonight, I'm bringing together five brothers in this virtual space to discuss, but not limited to, lessons, experiences, and hardships throughout life. We're going to rap about it. We're going to chop it up. We're going to break it down. We're going to make it plain. We're going to keep it real. And in the end, we hope to have shared some light, some insight, and some inspiration to brothers everywhere. Let me introduce my panel for tonight. Keith Battle is the founder and senior pastor of Zion Church, a church he started in the summer of 2000 that now has 3 locations in the Washington metropolitan area. We affectionately call the DMV. Pastor Battle also has a radio broadcast called The Weekly Wisdom on our sister station, WMMJ. Good evening, brother Pastor Keith Battle.
Hey, Ron. Good evening. How you doing?
It's great. It's great to be here with you, sir.
Likewise.
Anthony Lane is a retired U.S. Navy veteran, licensed residential real estate agent, and independent certified coach, trainer, and speaker with the John Maxwell team. Good evening, brother Anthony Lane.
Going there. Glad to be on.
Glad to have you. Gary Wingate is a senior wireless network engineer. His goal in life, build a legacy for his children, to do his best to uplift people of color and pay forward as much as he can. Good evening, brother Gary Wingate. So I'm there for a second.
Good evening, Ron. Thanks for having me.
Okay, great to see you. All right, Walter Kirkland hails from money earning Mount Vernon, New York. A graduate of Mount Vernon High, he earned a full athletic scholarship to Rutgers. Walter is the founding president of 100 Black Men of Prince George's County, vice chair of the National 100 Healthcare 2.0, and executive chair for the March of Babies. He enjoys working out, playing golf, and making deals. Welcome, brother Walter Kirkland.
Brother Ron Thompson, and what's up, brothers? How y'all doing?
Great.
Yes, sir.
This is great. Hector Williams Jr. is a native of DC, but raised in Largo, Maryland. Hector attended DeMatha Catholic High School and graduated with honors from North Carolina A&T with a Bachelor of Science in Transportation and Logistics. It was in college he discovered his passion for the stage by being active in the Couture Modeling Club. Hector has established himself in the fashion industry and this year launched Tyler McLean, a bespoke custom clothing line specializing in one-of-a-kind custom suits, casual and formal wear. Good evening, brother Hector Williams Jr.
Hello. Good evening, brother Ron. Hello, gang. How is everyone?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's going on?
What's going on?
This is great. We've got the brothers together tonight. Brothers, I want to touch on a couple of topics. I'm going to tell you what a few of them are. The post-pandemic, brothers hating brothers, dating, social media and the brother, raising young Black men, brothers in the church, and separate but equal. So I'm excited to get started with this, and let's just start with the post-pandemic. Now that we are returning to somewhat of things the way they used to be, how are you handling this differently? And we can just go from the beginning of the order with Pastor Keith Battle first.
You mean in our industry or just in general?
Just in general. You know, we did so many things before the pandemic, and then everything changed for us. And so now we are, I guess we're trying to come out of it, but with this variant going around, but we're trying to come out of it. How are we doing things differently?
I think I'm probably very highly cautious about my activities now. And that has been driven home by the fact that I had COVID-19 and I had a pretty bad case of it. In fact, if you listen to me close, I still am impacted by it. My breathing. I was down for 38 days and separated from my family in isolation. One of the difficult things about COVID is not just what it does to your respiratory system, but what it does to you emotionally. and psychologically because you have to suffer alone. And so I tend to be a lot more respectful of the power of that virus than a lot of people who haven't experienced it. In fact, I took my first trip last week to Texas. Hadn't been anywhere since February 2020. And I did it for a friend's event. So it was good to be out. I don't go out a lot, again, because it's still risky. And a lot of people still don't practice the protocols to keep us all safe. So I'm doing a lot less than I used to do. That's for sure.
And that's so true with a lot of people not paying attention to the protocol. And there's so much misinformation. It's the highway of misinformation out there now. So a lot of people are not sure what to follow. And that's unfortunate because a lot of lives are lost.
Yeah.
Let's go next to Anthony. How are you doing things differently?
So what I'm doing differently is just I'm still staying away from people. Before the virus, I didn't let people get inside my bubble, and even more now. I'm cautious, but I'm still going out and going on vacations. I go to the gym. I understand what Pastor Keith Battle was saying. I wasn't affected by it. No one from my immediate family was affected by it. So, but I am still cautious of everything that I do, but I'm not letting that affect me so much to where I don't want to travel. I have family that don't want to travel. They're still in a home. They're still wearing masks and shields and gloves and everything. So I'm paying closer attention to who I'm hanging around and who I'm talking to.
Okay, great. Gary, question.
Yes. All right. Can you guys hear me clearly? I want to make sure
Yes.
you can hear me. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm trying to get used to this new normal. I traveled recently to Myrtle Beach to watch my son play in the Cal Ripken League baseball, in which they won the championship. So yeah, it was very strange traveling to another state because here you kind of you still see everyone wearing masks. Everywhere you go. In Myrtle Beach, it was wide open, man. It was completely different. And you can somewhat get a little comfortable when you notice you're walking around and everyone else doesn't have masks on. So I'm just trying to get used to this new normal. I've just started going back to the gym, but I am still a little standoffish between getting close to people and things of that nature.
Walter Kirkland.
Hey, man, I want to echo Gary's sentiments. I've been traveling quite a bit. I went to Tulsa. I went to Atlanta. In Atlanta, hey, Gary, they don't believe there's a COVID-19. No one wears a mask in Atlanta. So
Wide open.
past the battle, they were down there chopping it up with no mask in most situations. So to be serious, hey, folks, get vaccinated. You have a better chance of living. And if you do get sick like Mr. Battle did, your chance of living is really like 90 plus. I have a medical background. And Ron, I think our world will never be the same. We'll be in a hybrid model where we're going to have to wear a mask or a glove or be more cautious about where we go because this herd immunity is going to take 2 years, Ron. So we have a ways to go. And my life has changed indefinitely. We just have to be careful and be cautious and know your surroundings and don't trust people. I'm to a point now, Battle, where I want to ask them, show me your card. So it's crazy out there. So
Yeah, for sure.
Hector Williams Jr.
Yes, just to piggyback on what you said earlier, Ron, I believe there's a lot of misinformation out there. And so I think if we as individuals begin to do more of our own due diligence to find out what's fluff and what's fact, I think we would be in a better position. But I, as well as some of the members of the panel, I've traveled throughout COVID. And personally, I haven't had any drawbacks or any negative experiences, but I have had friends and associates that have. So like Mr. Battle, I definitely do take it serious. So I am, cautious to wear my mask when necessary. But for the most part, I don't want to live in a bubble either. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, if you will, because I have to travel. So in those situations, you just have to do what you have to do in terms of protecting yourself and being mindful of, those around you as well.
Well, this is great. I'm glad we got a chance to find out how you guys are adjusting to this new normal. If anyone is just tuning in right now, this is a special conversation on brotherly love. My guests tonight are Pastor Keith Battle, Anthony Lane, Walter Kirkland, and Hector Williams Jr. And we've got a series of questions that I want to get right to next. Oh, by the way, if you want anybody to chime in, we're on praisedc.com on our website. Our Facebook page is Praise DC, and our YouTube channel is Radio 1 DC. So you can share that and have folks chime in. So I want to get to something that it's been on my mind for a while, and it's brothers hating brothers. So why do we display so much anxiety, resentment publicly and privately? And I'll give you an instance. You could be with some friends. Let's say there's Pastor Keith Battle, and somebody says, "Oh yeah, Pastor Keith Battle, that's my guy." But two guys down, somebody will say, "Man, I can't stand that." We'll just leave that blank for now. So that's the kind of thing. We're going to get to that in some other words a little bit later on in the conversation. But that's the kind of thing that jumps off. And not only that, but when you approach another brother, we don't smile at each other. There's always this kind of like this grin that we got to have, or this firm look that we got to have. Why do you think that's such, and what can we do about it? And who wants to go first on that?
I'll start. Hey, Ron, it's that black on black crime. And you and I talk about this all the time. It's unfortunate that we as brothers, based on slavery, based on so many negative connotations, we have, as Gary nods his head, this negative energy. It's almost like we can't be weak. We can't say, "Hey, Battle, I need your help. Battle, can you pray for me?" You know why? I think we're just conditioned to be strong. So there's something about positioning. There's something about economic empowerment. We got to let it go. Based on COVID, what's happened in COVID, clearly we were down at 3.5 more times than the white counterparts. Clearly we had less money than our white counterparts. We need each other. We got to stop hating and stop appreciating each other and take this thing to a different level, hit the reset button. It has to stop for us and for our children, and it has to stop now.
All right, thank you. Anybody else want to go? Who wants next on this?
Well, for me, this is Anthony. For me, I've been pretty blessed. Wherever I go, if I see a brother, I acknowledge them, they acknowledge me. I don't, I block that stuff out. If someone is looking at me in a negative way, and then I'll smile or just do something to where kind of break down that barrier. So I was in Cabo, and just some brothers walked up to me and they were like, "Hey, I like your style." I never met these. They were coming from different parts of the world. And we sat down and had a nice conversation, enjoyed a nice adult beverage. And but I do see where you're coming from. But I just don't feel any of the negativity from my counterparts.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
What about? Lucky, right, Ron.
He's lucky. What about you, Anthony? I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'll speak on that.
Gary.
I guess my experiences, man, has always been, as you say, when you travel, it's always refreshing to see another person of color wherever you go, and we always do this, as we know, the head nod.
That's what I was going to get to. The head nod.
It's a sign of endearment between brothers. If you want to say, and at times you will find certain ones that maybe go a different direction or won't speak, where you don't see a lot of that, and you kind of just let it go. But I think it starts with respect. We got to learn to respect one another, and I always think that you got to be very careful how we talk to one another. I use a phrase my brother-in-law always would tell me. He says, not what you say, it's how you say it. You know, how you speak to one another. And I think if we start with that, because we have so many young brothers of different ages, different eras, different groups, and you all kind of got to speak in a different tone to them. I think we got to be mindful of that. But the one thing I think for people of color, we always look for is respect. And going back to the sentiment of what Walter said, I think that started with that slavery, because we were so disrespected throughout, all people of color were disrespected on this planet for so long that, just the smallest things will set us off.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, very good point. I think it all goes back to a lot of psychological things that we subconsciously may be carrying out, because there has been, like you said, Mr. Lane, if there's been times when you might acknowledge somebody or give them a head nod, and it might not be reciprocated, but you have to channel that and redirect that, or not give it so much energy so that that person doesn't react subconsciously in a way that won't be, so much positive. But the flip side of that is a lot of these youngins out here, they don't have these old cats to teach the game. And when I mean the game, is like the respect game, the street game, the code. These youngins are not playing by any rules. In respect, they have no idea what respect is. So I think each one teaching one will help, and just making sure, like you said, focusing more on the positive, even if we do encounter someone that may be seeming to go in another direction, or we may get another vibe about.
All right, Pastor Battle. I know you might not hear a lot of this, but maybe you do.
Oh, of course. I'm a black man. Before I was a pastor, I was a black man, as a black young man, as a black child. I think I want to go back to what Walt said. It starts with the systemic injustices and pressure that we face as a people. You can't put people under that kind of inequity and it not impact the way they show up in the world, right? So we're already up against it. And then you add to that, we've been trained not to like each other. So there's certain things that, so if society says a man with sagging pants and locks and tats and he's smelling like weed, he's to be, we think it's an injustice when the police harms him, but sometimes in our own psyche, we're like, what you doing, man? There you go. Like, so we don't naturally lead with love, because it's counterintuitive. To love on a guy who may not be presenting or showing up well is not a natural inclination. And I think it's a warped development of what true manhood is. So we had this manhood to say, I ain't no punk. So if you look at me wrong, if you ever watch a boxing match and the weigh-in, the psychology is, I'm not going to look away from you. We do the thing where they stand in front of each other.
Stare down.
The that looks away is supposed to lose the fight. When we take that same mentality, you looking at me, what you looking at? What you looking at? What's up with you? So, like, you be 60 years old and still act like that. Right?
Right.
Because it's something that triggers in me. I ain't no sucker, man. Right? Like so that we gotta overcome that. And I think when you put all of that together, then those are the comparisons, right? Well, look at Hector, like he got this, or Gary has this, or Anthony's talking about, because we have a scarcity mentality, right? So we don't think it's enough out there for all of us. So if you got a little bit more, oh yeah, I could have had one. Oh, he think it's so many things, as Hector says, psychologically going on that we're not even conscious of when we interact with and see our own brothers. So when we say brotherly love, just like this, whatever we talk about tonight, it's a blessing because we get to love each other, whether we've known each other before or not. Like, these are my brothers forever now. Like, whenever we see each other, like exchanging numbers. What are you doing? How can I support you? What you got going on? We're not even in the same industry. How can I get some of your apparel? How can I, play golf with you, or whatever you're doing? I think that's how we change the narrative in smaller settings like this. Absolutely. And we carry it out.
In battle, what I do is I try to change the energy. Gary will tell you, I'll crack a joke, or I'll just say, hey, how you doing, brother? And I'll make them talk to me. And
Yeah.
they help, right, Gary? Even though they don't want to,
Oh, yeah.
but you just do it with you do it with brotherly love because I don't have an agenda. So I change the energy in the room and make them talk to me. So
Yeah, you go against the grain. That's that counterintuitive.
counterintuitive.
Yeah. Look,
Right.
I'm not going to give you back what you're giving me.
Right. And just because you're angry, I'm not going to be angry. I'm happy right now. And matter of fact, I'm going to tell you a joke and make you laugh. Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Or how about this? What's wrong, man?
Yes. Yes.
It's like that's too weird for us to say. Hey, Anthony, what's going on, brother?
Right.
You good?
Right.
Just
it's something else.
When we go like this day, Wingate said, he said we go like this. Like hey man, you good? You good?
Yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
good?
Sometimes just paying a compliment to someone. If you pay a compliment to someone, it will change the whole structure of the way that person may respond back to you.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that
nice shoot. Nice jacket. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I said to Brother Hector, man, you looking good, Brother Hector. He's like, man, you looking good. You know, it's the same kind of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And you made all of us, because y'all were looking so good, we all dressed up.
Everybody stepped it up.
Come on, man. That's what we do, right, Hector? That's what we do.
That's what's up. I love it.
Iron sharpens iron.
There it is.
That led me to my next question. What's the best way to reach other men, men not doing as well as you? And you've answered some of that by just asking a brother, how you doing? Is there anything I can do for you? Can I help you with anything?
Right. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Exactly.
So let me ask this question, gentlemen. Should the N-word be taken out of conversations?
Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
That's who's in the conversation.
I think Anthony got something to say. Go ahead, Anthony.
I go second.
I don't use that word. I don't. And when someone either the same race as me, even my mom, she tries to use them. I'm like, Mom, no, we got to change it up because, I know what the definition is. Regardless of who it comes from, I don't care if it came from you or from someone else. I don't accept it in my life. My wife is the same way. My wife almost got into a fight with a dude. He was extremely drunk. He kept saying it. She's like, I'm not your,
right.
And she checked him. And then I had to come behind her and double check him.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other brothers that were around me, then they checked him. Not out of anger, not out of disrespect, but I don't believe in it for myself.
Okay.
I'm probably one of the younger ones on the panel, and
yes, sir.
And I'm keeping it 100.
That's what we want. We want.
I use it.
I want to keep it 100.
So I guess my question would be, if we are to remove it, how? Because it's heavily ingrained. Heavily.
It is.
That's a good question.
Well, Hector, he asked the question, do you think we should remove it? So maybe your generation feels it's in terms of endearment.
And that's the thing. So we use it so casually and even like Anthony said, regardless of the definition, but I think we hold on to the definition. And I guess that gives us our justification for still using it for some of us.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gary.
Hector, I'm gonna be on your side with this one because I occasionally still use that word, as I do many words that I may not use all the time. Not in my house per se, not in my house as much. So my kids will tell you it's not like we willy nilly and we just throwing it around the house freely, so they hear it all the time. But if I'm with the fellas and it's at certain times I use it. It's not like I'm using it at work. So I would have to say I'm kind of touching both sides of that street right there, man. And I'm with you. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. I just know I hate when someone tries to use it to divide people of color.
Right.
Let me put it that way.
Right.
You have certain people, and so that's what I would end with.
So Ron, what I hate is when I see another race uses the word and they're trying to be like us. That bothers me. As Gary nods his head, and they use it in an inappropriate, like at a game or a basketball game, and they use the N-word and they're not black. That bothers me. So I think, to Hector's perspective, you can use it, but use it appropriately in a certain setting. But you know what happens with that? I'm sure Pastor Battle will agree, it may slip out at the wrong time.
Mhm.
That's the only problem. When you have it in your vernacular, when you remove it, then you just remove it, because it's just a thing, and I'm older too. It's just a thing that we used to use it a lot back in the day. Really in a fun way. Gary and I used it playing golf. We hit that stupid shot.
Yeah.
Did you just do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was used, in a very negative way in my past as well. Referred to somebody in a negative way. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So my next question: how do we as men define value in this world, relationships, etc., without finances being involved? I mean, what's true value to you?
I didn't hear the question completely, Ron. I'm sorry.
How do we as men define value in this world, whether it's relationships or without finances being involved? How do you define value in this world? Like, you don't need money to feel whole.
Let me kind of kick it off. I
Okay.
think what I've learned thus far is that purpose can give you a sense of value. And I think if you try to find any sense of value in anything else, that's kind of where we get off. And I mean, I've done it. We've all, in some degree in our life, try to put value in other things, situations, people, jobs, and our kids, and they let us down. And if we define our value based on that, we're going to be in an uphill battle. So I think the more that we as individuals can tap into what our purpose is, then that can bring us more in alignment with not only understanding our values, but keeping true to what those values may be.
Excellent
If I
point.
can chime in, I think, and I kind of heard it differently, Ron. I think you said finances in relationships. I think we as a race need to do more planning financially. And I think when you don't do the planning intergenerational in terms of each generation, it causes a problem, a disconnect in the quality of life. It puts pressure on your relationship. So I think we have to do better planning as it relates to financial planning. That's how I read it in terms of being Black men and preparing for our family and for the next generation.
Yeah, go ahead.
No,
go ahead, Pastor.
I like to jump in. I like to jump in and add to Walt's. Ron, as you spoke during the introduction of me, one of my biggest things, and my son would tell you, is that I feel the need that I want to build a legacy. I don't think too many people of color have built that legacy to catch up with our counterparts on improving the family structure as it continues to grow from generation to generation. And I think that has made me whole. Whether that's as Hector said, finding that passion or whatever else, that's my passion, and I enjoy that. I look forward to starting a legacy for my generation to continue on.
And you're doing that without, well, not necessarily with finance, but just through love and just compassion with your family and share and that type of thing.
Yeah, teaching your kids how to navigate through this world, because it can be very difficult and different for people of color, as you well know.
Yeah, so, I would say I agree with everything everyone said, and sort of like what Hector was saying about purpose. I think you can find value in life when you serve other people. When you know you've made a difference in somebody's life, that's valuable. When you know something you've said, something you've done, just showing up when somebody's in need like that, those are all very important ways to contribute and add value. But I want to be a little antithetical by saying, but resources are important. I think if we try to say, well, isn't there value without finances? Yes, but there's also vulnerability without finances. It's part of the systemic inequities and injustices that we face. Because if we can't afford a lawyer, or we can't afford to defend ourselves in an unjust system, many of our people can't even get bailed out of jail because they have parking tickets or whatever. It's so much that resources empowers us to do to protect us from things as well. So I wouldn't want to say, let's just go out here and find our purpose and be nice guys. I don't want to minimize the importance of resources either, particularly for us as Black men, as brothers, because resources protect us. They can provide education for us. They put us in positions that will empower us for generations as well. So I just wanted to just add that. And I think that's what Walt was getting at too, planning financially.
We have a saying with the 100 Black Men of America: what they see is what they will be. What they see is what they will be. So we have to exemplify that, Pastor. We have to show our youth, our kids, save that money for the rainy day like we used to do back in the day, Ron. My parents would tell me that. We don't do enough of that. We have to exemplify that example moving forward so the next generations can have the resources that the pastor talked about that we're lacking every single day.
Hey, so I just want to add to that. I know you want to go to the next question there, Ron. How can you add value? How can you remove finances? Because I grew up on the west side of Chicago, and I know many people, even here in DC and Baltimore, that don't have finances. They have never left Baltimore. They never left DC. They never left Chicago. But if you give them a little of finances, they let them see more value that's around the world, outside of the state, outside of their city. Okay. I grew up with my lights being turned off, with no water, with roaches. There's no value in that. So you have to have some type of finances to see a bigger picture. And that's one of my dreams, is to own places and put people who are struggling and let them see a better life. Because if you don't see a better life, then you don't want to do better.
Absolutely.
If you knew better, you'll do better. That's how I feel.
Okay.
All right, this is a special conversation on brotherly love. Ron Thompson, Program Director for WOL, WYCB, and WPRS. And our panel tonight is Brother Pastor Keith Battle, Anthony Lane, Gary Wingate, Walter Kirkland, and Hector Williams Jr. So, gentlemen, we're going to move on to dating. Let's switch it up a little bit. When did you know she was wife material?
Whoa.
Hey, Gary, you take that one, Gary. No, I'll start. I'll start.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, Ron, you're killing me with the questions, Ron. I knew she was wife material when I met her at an outing in the National Harbor, and we were planning an event, and it was raining outside, and she didn't run to cover her hair. She had on a denim jacket, Anthony, and she's just a natural, down-to-earth, smart Black sister who actually had a brain and was beautiful inside. That's when I know she was the right one, and she didn't run to cover up them, that hair weave. She don't have a hair weave.
I don't know if I can say that part for me, but I'll say that I think I knew she was the one when I knew she didn't want anything from me but for me to just be me. And that right there was valuable to me, because a lot of times you have individuals who want something from you. They just want to take, and not actually give, and not actually be there to support. And when I identified that she was genuinely there for me, to be me and support me, I was all in.
You know what? I'm gonna shock you. I knew she was the one.
Let me see.
Our first date, I took her to the movies, and I said, "Do you want something to eat?" She said, "Yeah." I left, and I was gone for a little bit because Burger King was across the street and they had the 2-for-1 Whoppers.
Oh man, that was your first date? Oh my God.
25 years later, we're still together.
Nice. You cheat, man, Anthony. You cheat.
For me, I think the question, I think what we're trying to give to the audience, the listening audience, is insight in what we're looking for as men. And for me, I got married early. I've been married 32 years now. And I think what is important is the maturation of the man himself. Because what you look for, what you would be looking for at 23 is totally different than what you would look for at 33.
Say it.
You're the same man, but you're the totally different man. I mean, just from 23 to 29, what you view is what you gotta have. And I think it's difficult to know what you want to you when you don't know where you're going. Mm-hmm. And I think when I knew where I was going, what my purpose was, what I was destined to do and be, I knew I needed somebody who was riding with that. Mm-hmm. And that changed the perspective. And I didn't know that when I was younger. So I think a lot of it, and I also had a prayer list. So, I was praying like, God, I want this complexion. I want these attributes. But more than anything, what made me prepared for my wife was when I knew who I was and where I was going.
Wow.
And I can add on to that.
You want fries with that?
No. Yeah, I bought fries. I say that just because she is like Walter. Like my wife is so down to earth, and we push each other to greatness. We don't allow, and that was basically from day one. We wanted each other to do great. Right now, my wife makes more money than me, and then a couple years later, we always went back and forth. I'll make more money. She'll make more money. It doesn't matter. It's the same account. So, I don't have hangups, that some men may have hangups because their spouse is, doing better financially, but it doesn't take away from my manhood. And that's what I believe in. I believe in myself, and she believes in me, and I believe in her also.
Hey, Ron, one last thing. When you find your soulmate, you kind of know it in your heart. And when I met my wife, in terms of the connection, I know it was my soulmate in terms of making that connection and giving me constructive feedback. It was a wonderful thing. And you kind of know that in your heart. So.
Okay. So, I guess I'm the last one up right here. So let me, Anthony, I'm going to say we twins. I'm 25 years in. I guess I knew what was most important to me was always about family. The one thing I noticed where I knew she was the one was watching the way that she interacted with her mom and dad. I lost my dad at an early age, so I was raised as a single mom, and I always wanted that family structure. It was important for me to have my kids all by one woman, and God blessed me to have us 3 beautiful kids with just the woman that I'm still with. So it was the family structure and the way that I saw that she kind of interacted with her mom and dad and the family. And they have a big family, and which really love. And it wasn't so bad too, but that was what drew me in. That was it for me.
Okay, so when in a serious dating relationship or committed relationship, are there rules of engagement that should be established?
Absolutely.
Yes. Trust is number one. Both my wife and I, we started off being a little jealous of if she talked to someone tried to talk to her, but we had to have that understanding that she's extremely gorgeous, I'm handsome, and we both you got to be well.
Facts.
Yeah,
No, you
keep it real.
Yeah,
keep it real, man. Keep it real.
And so we both have great personalities to where we love talking to people. I can just walk up to a stranger right now and start talking to him, and she's like, Why are you talking to them? But there's no flirtation. We know how far to take the conversation. And so you have to have trust and knowing what your partner will and won't do.
And I just want to piggyback on that. Lane, very valid point, because my wife and I are the same way. Personality wise, people kind of gravitate to us, but I'm more outgoing. So like you, I can go to the 7-Eleven and the clerk is my friend by the time I leave. And she's like, who's Johnny? And I'm like, yo, no, Johnny, he's the one at the 7-Eleven. And she's like, how do you know his name? And it's like, I don't know how I know his name. But I will say that not only with the trust, but you do have to define some boundaries. And sometimes that's going to be trial and error, because early on in our relationship, we would go out to dinner. And because I'm so, I guess, carefree, I would say to the waitresses, they would say, do you want anything? And I'd be like, no, thanks, love, I'm good. And she'd be like, well, why did you call them love? And I'd be like, no, it's just something casual. But to her, she's like, no, you don't know how they're going to take it. And I'm like, what? And so she's educating me, giving me a whole new perspective. And I had to say, you know what, heck, you might want to check yourself. And for the satisfaction of your wife, you might want to reel it back, even though it's innocent. And so we had to, through trial and error, kind of figure those little nuances out. So I'm with you on that, brother.
Is dating outside the race, is that disloyal?
Oof. I think Ron and brothers. I
disagree with that one.
I think
let me go first on that, Walt.
Go ahead.
Okay.
No, I mean, if you find love, man, it's a beautiful thing. And you don't know who that's going to be with. And I think as we continue to evolve in this world, it's never going to be one race, and it's hard enough trying to find love within your own race, let alone trying to force it. I just think that, you just got to let it happen. And it'll find you.
I want to just echo Gary's sentiments. The younger generation, I don't think they're as racist as we are in my age group. So I think if you find love, you make that connection and you feeling it, go for it. I think it's fine whether you marry an Indian person or a Jamaican person. As long as you guys respect each other, go for it.
I'm all with that.
I am also. I have a son that's 24. He's 6'7", 210 pounds, extremely handsome, and he tried to date African American girls. And he was like, they're too loud, they're ghetto. And he was in a private school. And he didn't like their attitudes towards anything. They were like, give me money, give me this, give me that. But then he met a little Asian girl. She wasn't about gimme, gimme, gimme. So it's about who you connect with. And then he connected with her. So now he's turned off from black girls.
Anthony, he don't want to go with Shaquanda anymore. Man, come on, Adam. Come on, man. Shaquanda, get over here.
So, gentlemen,
I was just going to say, we may not be able to say that dating outside of your race is disloyal, but I think it's difficult. I think there's a difficulty in it that we should be conscious of. You think about when you try to blend a family, right? You're bringing in people of the same race, and they're coming from different cultures and different backgrounds. And I say all relationships are blended. There are all challenges when you come from different backgrounds. When you come from different races and cultures, you add even more agita to the mix. Where do the kids go for Christmas? Well, you got to go to China, or we have, and although it gives them maybe cultural diversity and of experiences, it's still different. There may be some challenges. And I think what happens when two people fall in love with each other, they usually can't see past that to look at what will this do? What will we raise children up in? What will be their challenges religiously, politically? philosophically. We love each other and we're vibing, but we have a different clan we bring to the table. My mama like cornbread, yours likes okra. I don't know. It's just you have to consider
stir fried rice.
Yes, they're sure fried. I just would like to take that into consideration. Beyond the love, it is the challenge that might come with just to count the cost.
Right.
I think it's more than two people coming together. You're merging clans and families and in-laws and all of that means.
Yeah.
Okay. Final two questions on this, the relationships here. Is there a double standard for men and women? In other words, women can have girl trips. Can guys have guy trips?
Oh, I don't have a double standard. I'm all for guys trips, girls trips. I do heck trips. I'm for it all. You need to unwind and relax and woosah from everybody. The kids, the wife, the dog, the frog, all of it. I'm for it all.
Yeah, I think, me too. Hector, I'm with you. I'm with you. My wife has her girl trips, and I definitely take my own trips. I think that's good for it. The kind of being away makes you appreciate that person even more. You kind of miss them, especially when you pissed at them sometimes.
Yeah. I think, brothers, we need to get away, but we got to do it within guidelines and respect. And that's the only thing that happens is battle shakes its head. Boys will be boys. So we just got to kind of understand our limitations, right, Battle?
Absolutely.
And know what we are and what we're doing. So space is good, but you got to know your parameters.
Absolutely. Agree.
So what role does social media play in your life, in your relationship, and in your family? I want to go on a little bit more. Do you share your experiences with your significant other? Do you share pictures of your lady on your social media? If not, why not? And are you friends with her on your social media pages? Can brothers do that? Can we share our social media stuff?
Well, you know what? I'll take this one.
Okay.
If you got an ugly girl, and you ugly, that's one thing. But but being serious, if you with this partner, if you with this person, and you two call yourself in a relationship, then you should put it on your social media. Now if you're in business and it's messing with your brand, then that's something that's totally different. But no, you should put your significant other on your social media, pictures, videos, love notes, whatever. So may it be, and I'll and just have fun with it.
What about sliding into the DMs?
No, I'm about business, and so unless I'm sliding in your DM to sell you something, give you a coaching product or help you buy a house, I'm not sliding in your DM for no reason. I have no reason to.
Yeah, and those are the things we were talking about earlier, like the boundaries. I mean, you definitely have to set boundaries. And social media,
just using that word "sliding in the DM," man, is wrong.
Well, I mean, that's a term. I mean, it is a term now.
I know.
And it's used quite frequently.
You slide anywhere, that's not good.
All right. So how would you
playing baseball?
How would you prefer me to? How would you prefer me to position that?
No, that's right. That's about accurate.
I think there's so many different identities on social media that you don't know who you're talking to. So you have to be very cautious. I forget who said, I do a lot of marketing and media stuff to try to promote. And I've sold several cars, tickets. So I think that's the best thing about social media. But the DM piece, you just don't know. It's so many crazy people out here that with COVID and the world we live in, you just don't know. So I think that's a no-no.
All right, so this is a special conversation on brotherly love with our guests, Pastor Keith Battle, Anthony Lane, Walter Kirkland, Hector Williams Jr., and Gary Wingate. So I want to switch the topic over to raising young black men. I don't know if you have all have sons, but I want to talk to you about this, raising young black men today. What is most important to share and teach? Who wants to go first on this?
If you don't mind, I would like to start first with that. I think definitely we spoke on this, spoke on it in a different entity, but I think finance is one. I think finance is very important to teach your kids about finances and credit. Credit would be, to me, at the top of that list. On that, finances, credit, how to, and then just my everyday living with my wife, letting my son see how I interact with his mom. I think those are some of the key valuable tools to start with. I mean, you have plenty more that we talk about dealing with, of course, the injustice for people of color, and that's a different conversation that you have to speak with as they continue to get older, each age by age. But those key factors for me would be credit, finances, and just seeing the love of family. I think that's my key tool that I use.
Yeah, I would say also, Ron, with the 100 Black Men, we mentor youth, and the biggest problem is that sense of urgency, lack of transparency, and lack of communication skills. Young boys, generally, we say yes, no, we even grunt. Women communicate a lot better. So with my son specifically, I'll give you an example. My older son, Chase, had his car stolen, and he tells me, "Oh, I locked the door." I ended up calling the police. They said he didn't lock the door. So you have, and the reason why he was afraid to tell me, I think you have to be honest and teach your sons to be truthful, even though it's painful, even though you made a mistake. Just be honest, because if you don't tell the truth, it's going to cause a problem. If you're not transparent, and if you lack sense of urgency, like we did, Ron, when we were pumping gas back in the 70s and 80s, I would take any job. But these kids today, it's entitlement, lack of sense of urgency, and lack of transparency. So that's what I try to really drill in my sons. They call me the drill sergeant, because they just don't understand it. They don't understand where we are as a people. That's what's painful.
And
I like to chime in there. I think what I would say is important in raising sons is what I would call like this systemic strategic suffering. Like, I think at various stages of their development, we have to allow them to suffer the consequences of their own choices, not always protect them from pain, because there's certain muscles you have to develop as a man. Financial responsibility, as Gary said, being able to tell the truth, being able to speak. And you don't learn those things without pain. You don't learn how to get good credit till you mess the credit up that you had, right? So taking away things from them that we're taking care of for them, so they learn how to take care of themselves, like paying their own cell phone, paying for a car note, learning. When a child gets a car, they don't understand that we got the tags put on the car, we're paying the insurance on the car, we do the registration. No, you got every 2 years, you can get a notice, you get a sticker on the back, you got to take care of it. That's $70 in Prince George's County. So that's how they become a man, when we stop taking care of them and letting them, being there for them all the time, but making sure they have to work to struggle, because I think for many, our success becomes their weakness. So because we can provide all these things, because we can go on the car dealership and buy them a car and do all these things for them, they haven't had to grind to get it and work at the gas station pumping gas. They don't want to do it because they didn't have to. Right. Because in their bedroom is a laptop, an iPad, what is it called? A PS5, a television, a flat screen,
and a fish sandwich.
And they can Uber Eats. They get Chick-fil-A when they want it. So I think we're raising a lot of young men who are not built for manhood because of our own disablement by taking care of too many things for them. So that's systemic struggle, letting them struggle so that they can build those manly muscles or masculine muscles, I think is very important.
Yeah, for me, I have a son that's at the University of Chicago right now, and he we're I know what Chicago is about, but I went to go see him 2 years ago, and he was like, "Dad, I know how to walk around. I'm good. You taught me good." And and then my other son lives down in Houston, so I teach them what to look out for before they even left home, coming up as young men. How to wear their clothes, how to be respectful to themselves, to others, and just how they just handle themselves. If you are standing on the corner looking like a thug, and then when the police come, you want to run even though you didn't do anything, don't put yourself in those situations. So, yeah, that's what I do.
And just to piggyback on what everyone said, but that last part, that's what I try to instill in my son. Just sharing with him how things may be perceived in the world, regardless of your motive. But like you said, if you are on the corner and your pants are hanging halfway down your butt, bro, come on. That you're going to be looked at a certain way. And yes, that may not be good or bad, but that's the reality of things. And so what I want to teach and instill is the reality in which the world that we live in. And we all know times are changing and has been for a while now. And the other piece I would like to say, on top of the communication and transparency, is teaching them emotional intelligence, because being able to navigate in this world with the ups and downs that we will encounter as Black men, um, it's going to be tough. It is going to be tough. And that is something that is not taught in schools, along with what you said, Gary, financial literacy, not taught in schools, credit. A lot of these things are not taught traditionally in schools. And I think those are some of the fundamental and foundational pieces that we need to get back to in order that our young men will be our, more successful predecessors, if you will.
And Ron, one last thing that I think we didn't touch. We have to learn them to respect women again. Open the door. Just go back to old school, treating your wife or your girlfriend as a queen. We have to do that, because the stuff we hear, the B word on the rap attacks, which, Ron, I know you hear all the time in the radio business, is so painful. And we got to understand, this is the mother of our child. This is our queen. And that's what we really have to do with these young boys, to understand their roles, because now that role is getting crossed, right, Battle? They're starting to do things like mommy versus what the man is supposed to do. We got to clearly define those roles early and often.
Agreed.
Well, gentlemen, I have about 2 minutes left, and I know this is not enough time, but I do want to get just a quick thought on how do you connect, communicate, discuss the church and religion among church and non-church folks that you know? Is this a conversation killer?
Let's hear Battle first.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, Walt. I said,
really? I want to hear yours, Battle. I really do. I look at it this way. If people know what you do and they want what you have, they'll let you know. You don't have to impose that on people. That's a good point. People don't want you. First of all, people don't want you in their business now.
That's correct.
Right.
Everybody that goes to my church don't want me to know what they're doing. They just say, I just like your preaching. There's levels of engagement, right? Whatever service you provide for people, you can only help people to the degree that they want you to help.
Absolutely.
And,
I think you got to find a different way, Ron and brothers, to get people to Christ. And it's not directly saying church. Maybe it's a spiritual motivation. Maybe it's reading a book. It's hard. You just can't push people like that anymore. But you got to show them in a creative way of how God's in charge and how you might want to consider spiritually moving in a better direction. Because people are very defensive now, and you're in their grill and they want to shoot you, or they want to put their finger out there, or they want to run you over with the car. It's just a scary time right now.
And I think,
well, gentlemen, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say real quick. I think it was said earlier, just being that example, whatever that is, letting your light shine, and the people who need to gravitate towards you will. And like you said, Battle, it won't be a situation where you have to pour out all of your deepest, darkest secrets. Like it'll be a specific assignment.
Pastor Keith Battle, Anthony Lane, Gary Wingate, Walter Kirkland, and Hector Williams Jr. I feel like I've made a connection with you brothers. Let's hope we can stay together and connect, and maybe we'll expand on this. Maybe we'll get 5 other brothers to have the same kind of conversation. We'll keep this thing going. Let's see how we can connect and grow together as brothers. I appreciate the conversation. It's a special conversation on brotherly love. Thank you all, and you'll have a good night.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you,
brother. Be safe out there.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Well.
Great.
Pleasure to meet you guys.
All
Appreciate
right.
you all, brothers. Peace and hair grease.
Appreciate you.
All right.
That's right.
Appreciate